The Rise Today Inspirational Podcast is brought to you by two relentless health warriors, Dr. Erica Harris, an empowered mindset health expert who is the passionate founder of RiseToday.com, and Megan Hubner, an entrepreneurial marketing strategist and founder of Hubner Marketing. These two inspirational forces have truly thrived through adversity and are here to empower you to do the same. Together, they serve to open up the conversation about hardship and to move you to greatness through your adversities. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. Now, let's get started. Let's rise today, right here, right now.
It's a good day.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Erica Harris here with you today from RiseToday.com. I am so excited to welcome you to today's show and to introduce you to my very near and dear friend named Serena Klaver. For years, she has served as a very experienced caregiver. She devastatingly became a widow at the age of 30 years old. She now speaks on helping others best navigate grief and the importance of self-care. She's also a resiliency community planner, and we are so excited to have her here with us today. Welcome, Serena.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Erica, and good afternoon, Megan.
Thank you very much. So tell us, Serena, where in the world are you right now?
Victoria, British Columbia, the province of BC here on Vancouver Island.
Amazing. We love it there.
I love your beautiful, positive energy that you exude and this beautiful, happy smile that you exude everywhere you go. And I know this well from being your longtime friend. Mm-hmm. But tell us how you've done this. You've navigated so much. So take us back. I know there was a very special person in your life. So can you tell us a bit about him?
Sure. Erica is speaking about my dear husband, Matthew. Matthew passed away 4 years ago. He came into my life in 2007 when I was out to dinner with my mom. Little did I know over the course of the next year, he was battling leukemia. We didn't have any contact, but then we miraculously bumped into each other. We were out salsa dancing in 2008. And it was electrifying, I would needless to say. And so we started dating, got engaged right away, lived together after 3 weeks, and had a pretty incredible marriage together. He was diagnosed with a lung disease pretty early on into our relationship, 7 months into our relationship. We had no idea what it meant. Bronchiectasis, very rare. And unfortunately, each year he had further and further deterioration of his lung capacity to the point where he needed a double lung transplant in 2015. And it extended his life about 8 or 9 months, but May 24th, 2016, he passed away. Matt was my very best friend, still is my very best friend, someone that I have learned to continue staying connected to, whether I'm standing at the ocean somewhere that reminds me of him, or I'm wearing his slippers, or I have a cup of coffee. He's someone that I really just try and kind of connect to his strength. He really was, one of the most courageous people I got to spend, 9 years with almost every single day and learn from, get challenged by, absolutely. In now pretty profound ways. So it's I really do look at it as a gift. It was very, very, very hard for me to see it as a gift, grieving someone that gave me unconditional love. I never really felt like I experienced that before in my life, and to then have that swept away and gone was quite a challenge of figuring out how to reconnect to that. But I do every single day. And I feel I feel very, very fortunate that I understand what that all means, really what the essence of living a fulfilling life means, being connected, really valuing my health, like living with an open heart. Like now I get to walk around the world and who I get to connect with is quite amazing. And I don't think I would have, because my heart was pretty closed when I first met Matt. So yeah, my life has
Wow.
really radically changed.
I can really feel your love pouring through when you talk about the relationship. When you talk about your spouse, and I can feel that support. But I can only imagine as a caregiver and being new in a relationship and being, young. We're really young. What are some of the phases that you went through yourself during that time? Because it's one thing for your husband to have a condition that he's struggling with, but it's another thing for you to be the support during that time.
Totally. Yeah, no, it was shocking. When Matt and I first started dating, he was 1 year into his remission of leukemia. And, looking back at photos now, I can be like, oh, wow, he wasn't very healthy, but I didn't see any of that. I just, I guess I saw his spirit, and I fell in love with him. It's really simple. Erica knew him very well, and she fell in love with him as a friend. Like he was very easy to fall in love with. But like I would say weeks, no, not even, probably the first week into getting to know one another. I think I went and joined him at the hospital when he was getting IVIG transfusions to keep his immune system up. And I think little by little things started to kind of like hit me. I'm like, oh, we're not going on a date to this bar. We're in the hospital. Whereas we did have beautiful dinners. Like Matt really, really did try really hard to live like a really full life. But, each year his health got worse. And, there would be times that he was coughing up blood, and my like nervous system would be completely shaken, and like, what does this mean? And so I really didn't know how to deal with it all. I was trying to be strong. I definitely tried to like emulate his strength.
Did you find support in your family or in the community or in your relationship or?
Well, that's a really good question. And this is something that has really perpetuated the direction that I am now going on in my profession as a community planner, because no, I didn't in the beginning. I was someone that kept things pretty withdrawn into myself. Like, he was such a wonderful person. He was already struggling with his health. How could I impose anything more on him? I didn't have the closest relationship with some of my family members or my parents at that time. We lived with Matt's parents for a couple of years, so they were heavily involved all the way through our relationship into the very end of Matt's passing. So they were supportive, but I definitely still like held back some of my struggle. And it wasn't until I would say closer to Matt's transplant date that I was just like hitting a threshold and, try to find greater sources of support and connection in community. Matt and I would, we started exploring meditation and nutrition, like really focused on building health on a very holistic level very early on in our relationship. It was just a priority. So yeah, there was some elements of support in like supporting our body, supporting our mind through education and through spiritual practices. But yeah, speaking out about it, and that's a big reason why I'm here, because I know how critically important it is to be able to connect with people and share, so you're not hurting inside.
So important that you are here, Serena, and I'm so thankful for this, because I know well myself from being the patient that so much of the emphasis goes on to the patient, and so little emphasis goes on to supporting the caregiver, who plays such a huge role for that patient and who also undergoes the journey, but just in a totally different way, right? And many more resources need to be allocated to those serving this caregiver role, because the stresses and the pressures and everything can be very heavy. And so tell us some of the tools that best served you to keep Serena afloat, not just keeping Matt afloat in these years, but how did you keep honing into your own identity when all of this, how did you find the calm and the chaos through all of this and focus in on yourself and on your own heart?
That's a great question. Thankfully, before Matt and I started dating, I had really started to focus on running and running marathons. Running has always been in my life, but I kind of took it to another level of joining groups and fundraising and training for marathons. It was something that felt very purpose driven. And so that was a regimen in my life. And so I was able to keep that up. You know, I couldn't process everything that was going on an emotional level, so I'd go for a run. And so that was something I knew. So I was like, okay, stick with what I knew. And then yoga became really integrated into my life. And so that was a continual practice. And so I would go to that when I wanted to calm my mind or, you know, just get a different kind of physical release. So I was like, okay, I know that. So I tried to maintain that in my life. I was also in university, so I had an academic stimulating outlet, you know, getting my mind going. You know, there's still stuff that's I'm processing, but it was in some respect, it was a healthy distraction. But yoga was one of those things where it's like, it keeps you in your body. And so it's tuning in, right? Like you really do need to tune into your emotions as hard as they are. And so it's this combination of, okay, what do I need right now? So that was an ongoing like practice of asking myself, what do I need? I'm giving to Matt. I love him dearly. I want to support him, but I also need to give to myself. My friend circle was pretty limited in the first number of years. We moved to the island, but you know, I connected with friends through school, and then I got to a point where I knew I needed greater support. I tried going to church a few times, and I had a bit of a disconnect with my own, you know, belief system, so that wasn't too consistent. But I sought out a counselor, a psychologist. I've now been seeing her for almost 5 years. When I knew that I wasn't excited about things I should be excited about, I'm like, something's not right. So again, this like deep inquisition all the time. And so that has been hugely impactful. Journaling. I have a journal with me at like all times, because I'm like, some stuff you just need to get out. And it's like, well, who do you tell? Like, I don't want to project this all into this beautiful man in front of me. Okay, journal.
Journaling's great.
Yeah.
It's a really good outlet.
There's so many tools, but it's really been like a trial and error, listening to things, watching things, just continually growing.
You talked about, you know, the healthy body, healthy mind, the nutrition that you guys focused on, the meditation and the mindset work that you guys were doing together as a couple and things. But then you also talked about actually allowing yourself to let yourself feel that emotion. You hit this wall. So when you hit this wall of I need something to shift, how did you give yourself permission to let yourself feel that grief and that pain in order to be able to heal to get to where you are today?
It was tough. It took, I don't know, an element of like really surrendering, because I've been someone that's been conditioned and programmed to be a warrior, to like hold things together and make sure that everyone's okay. And I hit a point before Matt was hospitalized for his transplant where I just knew my capacity, like my battery, my energy level was just dwindling. And I asked his parents to help. And so Matt actually lived with his parents for a period of time before he was hospitalized. And I just felt like I was ready to like explode. Like something was screaming at me, like I need time for myself. And so it really was brute force. It was like something like you need to just be with all this, but I didn't want to put it on to him. So it was really hard for me to be in the same space and process my emotions where I could see him struggling all the time. And I didn't quite learn how to do that. And so it was once I actually had like this safe space in the environment of my own home by myself, knew that I wasn't going to be projecting onto anyone else. I really started, well, it started bits by bits in yoga, because there really is a mind-body element of feeling your feelings in that. But this was kind of on a more amplified level. Like, Serena, you got to sit with your stuff. And like, bawled my eyes out. I was angry, like, gosh, there was a tsunami of emotions that were coming out, but I finally needed to like feel them. So
I think you touch on a really incredible, powerful point there of alone.
Yes.
And so often in our society, we are, I don't feel good, so I'm going to reach for something that's going to make me feel good, whether it is a drug, an alcohol, a beer, a bag of chips, a friend, a glass of wine, something to distract us. But that power of sitting with yourself is literally giving me goosebumps right now.
It's important to own, right? Like, you hit this wall, right? It's a big discussion about burnout, really. Burnout really comes down at the end of the day of not necessarily doing too much in one capacity, but doing too little of what fuels us, right? From within. And so I really admire you for that courage that you had for taking that shift, right? Because so many caregivers in that role just get entrenched. I must be here. I can't do anything else. But we can only give of ourselves. And I know this as a mom. And it's hard to prioritize yourself, right? But you can only give your whole self if you're fueled, right? In the ways that you need to be fueled. And so recognizing and owning, shoot, I've hit this point of burnout and I need to restock here, right? And I think that's such a healthy measure to recognize. You got him additional support by his parents, and you kind of took care of you for a little bit, right? Before then turning back and giving him your whole self again, and how important that was. So I really commend you for that ability to do.
Well, it was imperative. I really needed that, because I know, looking back, I would have not been able to have withstanded the near year of being in the hospital and being present with him, wanting to be with him every day, if I hadn't have given myself that time.
So tell us, Serena, how we can encourage our listeners to do the same. Oftentimes they feel this sense of guilt, right? They take their eye off that patient, the person in my shoes, let's say, right? As soon as the eye comes off that, they feel this sense of guilt, like I should be there, I should be there, I should be there. Help our listeners alleviate that guilt.
Well, I'm going to just try from telling a very truthful story. And the honest truth is that I really questioned my marriage. I got to a point where I just wasn't sure if I could be in it anymore. And I loved and adored this person so much.
Which we can all hear. We can all hear this fierce love that you described. So
and I was questioning. And so it was like, why am I questioning wanting to stay? And so I just now that it's been 4 years without him, I value marriage so incredibly. Like, it's one of the most beautiful connections that anyone can have. You really can. And it's just, I may be living with extreme regret not having been through that last year of Matt's life, and being in the hospital was so tough, but it was so beautiful. The conversations that we got to have, the interactions we got, but I got to learn more about him and learn more about myself and values and his parents and, nurses and doctors and the healthcare system. I just gained so much, and it's tough. I know it's tough to give yourself permission to look after yourself, especially when you see someone beside you struggling so much, but we have to, we really, really have to, we have to be our own advocate. We have to give to ourselves. No one else has the same responsibility of looking after ourselves than we do. Like there just is no other option. Like we're giving to someone else, we have to also give to ourselves, because like we need to stay healthy, like we need to be able to be present for that person. We need to, like, yes, be real and authentic, but also, bring some level of courage and hope and love, and just your presence, full presence with someone. It's just so beautiful. So it just, I don't know. There's no other thing other than it's just like, it's so necessary and it's so worth it.
Beautiful.
It really is.
I want to switch a little bit now to talk about how you've done really such a phenomenal job to work through your grief, and you really own it and you feel that as well, and you let yourself go through this. And I want to start really back at that moment of when Matt passed. And I remember Matt and I have navigated very similar hurdles for very different reasons. And he and I had connected long before you and I had connected. Through various support groups. And he and I had various extensive conversations. He and I both being very immunocompromised. I hadn't met you for quite a long time in person. We had spoken on the phone, but we had not connected in person. And I'll never forget the weekend of his service. And for me, it was a weekend of the notion of 4 weddings and a funeral. And I desperately wanted to be at his service, but at the same time, I didn't want to ruffle feathers by my presence of me still surviving, right? And the last thing I wanted to do was offend you. But I made the decision to make the trip over to the island, and I came and I kind of held back. And I want to tell our listeners this powerful moment for me, and I think for you as well. And I kind of held back at the end of the receiving line. And I think I was probably the last to connect with you. And I was like, my head was a little bit down, and I was like, oh, Serena, it's Erica Harris. And I felt, I didn't know how you would take it, my presence being there. And I'll never forget it. I was holding my hands kind of much like I am right now, like just much like this. And you just enveloped my hands, and you wept with joy for my presence of being there. And you said how connected you felt to Matt through me being there at that service. And it was just this whole full circle, beautiful moment. But take us through this, please, Serena, because you've navigated so much as such this beautiful, thriving young woman to go through all of this at such a young age. It just leaves me, my jaw dropped. And so take us, how did you put one foot in front of the other?
So great. Well, thank you for sharing that story, because it's just one of those moments where like it'll be vivid and memorable for the rest of my life. Matt loved and adored you immensely, and so that moment of actually meeting you myself, I always will feel Matt through you. So thank you. I was like, I think it was about 3 or 4 months before Matt passed, I gave my first ever talk locally in Nanaimo, where I was living at the time. And it was about life is a marathon, because I was a marathon runner, and I kind of broke down this journey of life, these different principles that I've gained. And so it really has that vision of life as a marathon has stuck with me, and thankfully was already percolating before Matt passed away. And thankfully I already was meditating and doing yoga and building a beautiful network of friends and community, because the day that Matt took his last breath, I was devastated. I still, like, when they took him off life support, I still in my head thought Matt was going to continue breathing. Like, I just still had so much faith that he was going to keep living, and obviously that wasn't the case.
I know you really went inward, Serena, and I know you did a few trips, and you really you did these trips by yourself. Again, this notion that Megan brought up of being alone, and that solitude and the gift of solitude that brings. But and inner reflection that we all need, and that awareness of what we're going through. And I know well that you let yourself feel all of that, but at the same time, you didn't go alone, because you also brought him with you, and you had deep conversations with him.
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah. Right after Matt passed away, I went back. He passed away in Vancouver. And the next day I went back home to Nanaimo, which was the house that we had bought together, furnished with all of his belongings, his clothes, like everything. Matt was there. And yeah, I took the first 3-4 weeks off of work. I was working in the tourism industry before that, and just was home in this space with all these memories, with his presence, and I grieved is really what I did. I yearned for him. I was waiting to hear from him. I was waiting for his text messages to come through every day, but clearly, obviously, that wasn't going to happen anymore. I have a beautiful dog that we got together 8 years ago, and thankfully she got me out of the house every single day, even if that was just the only thing I could fathom to do was, okay, I need to take Sarah for a walk. And then, okay, what's next? And I don't know, I guess I tuned into my intuition, my inner knowing, my belief, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, to just listening to myself. It's, what do I need today? And yeah, I eventually, on our wedding anniversary, which is July 4th, I was like, I really feel like I need to connect with him. On our honeymoon, we went down the Oregon, California coast on a road trip and into the wine country in California. And so I kind of wanted to do that again. I had some of his ashes I wanted to put in the ocean. I just really just tried to tune in and listen every day. And yeah, I didn't throw everything away right away. It was super uncomfortable, but I tried to, like, okay, who can I give this to? What? I asked Matt regularly, what did I do about this? What would you do, Matt? You know, like, just, I've been really taking, Matt said in the hospital, day by day, moment by moment. And that really is life, you know, just like really, I'm a community planner now, so I do like planning, but I really try and, like, I don't know, surrender to life, listen to life, be present to life, as hard as that is sometimes. So, but it
sounds to me like you gave yourself a lot of the time that you needed to feel, and you took away all the judgment that we all have about how productive we should be in a day, or what we should be conquering, or this or that. It sounds like you were really able to really sink into you for that first bit after, and then implement your planning and get back to that notion of having a schedule, which again is so important for us all, right? But only after we've been real and have allowed ourselves the time to have that space.
Yeah, it's been a ping pong. I'm not gonna lie. Like, when I was in the hospital with Matt, I was like, I'm not doing anything. And I was like, why am I questioning why I'm not doing anything? I'm here with my husband. So I, like, you know, talk about productivity. I struggled with that, but I just, like, it's kind of like I had this chatter going on of, like, you're supposed to be doing this, you're supposed to be doing that. And I'm okay, no, I just need to be here. And if I really feel like I have something super important to do that needs to be dishes to clean, go do the dishes, but come back here and, like, focus. So
great, Serena. So this is all, like, talking about the power of right here and right now, which is so important. And that is how we find our gratitude. And that is how we find our true and utter happiness, no matter what comes our way, is really changing that bar and taking our eye off where we think we should be, where we think we should be in an hour, where we think we should be, how productive we think we should be, and find the blessings that come in the moment of right here and right now. And you did a really great job of that.
The ability just to quiet that noise from the outside perspective. I love how much internal work you have done through this entire process, whether it was from your marriage, whether it was, you know, navigating the early years of marriage to then having this diagnosis and then spending an extended period of time in the hospital to end up going through all of this, and then, you know, have the loss of Matt in your life. The fact that you have become so powerful, I can see it, I can feel it. you know, the fact that you've become so powerful in that process of self-awareness is something that I really think that I want all of our listeners to really just tap into, that is that you are so much more powerful than you probably ever give yourself credit for. And Serena gave herself the space and the time and the gratitude to be in the moment, to recognize what was important. And I just feel that is so vital in these days.
And so important. So when we're in that moment and we really recognize, shoot, in this moment, like I'm kind of unhappy, right? I'm sad. I'm feeling these emotions, and that's okay, right? Like we're not going to bottle that up, and we're not going to fester that, because then that grows and then that festers into a whole other world for us. But when we truly allow ourselves the space to feel it and say, in this moment, this is how I feel. It's not necessarily how I'm going to feel in 2 hours from now, or in 2 weeks from now, or in 2 months from now. But right now, this is what I feel, and this is what my body needs, and this is what I need to heal. So just that sense of awareness, though, and that step, I should say, of awareness is the very first step. So I really admire you for that. Serena, take us through a few of the lessons that Matt taught us all, and share some of those lessons with our listeners, please.
Well, it's funny because as you're talking about emotions and processing emotions, I always go to Matt. Loved the movie Shrek, and because he had a respiratory illness, he coughed up a lot of stuff, and so he correlated a saying of Shrek, "It's better out than in," to his spitting up his mucus. But I actually correlate that to the expression of our emotions, because they're better out than held in, and just whether that's through journaling, vocalizing, you know, sharing in a safe space, music, whatever it is, but just getting movement, getting things out of our system. So, but that will always, it's better out than in, and I'll go always for Matt for that.
Good lesson.
Yeah. Everything, I say it all the time now, it's a mantra. Everything in life is a practice, whether we want to sit with our feelings more, we want to be calmer, we want to be more present, we want to be more disciplined, we want to be more productive, or whatever. Like, it just, everything is a continual like, if you really want that, it's a practice. Like, and it's just like, okay. So I wrote down a few different things. Matt really had a strong belief system, and I remember he used to speak in his shower. I thought it was so bizarre, but it really woke something up in me. I'm just looking to something bigger and greater. I gotta
ourselves, right? Like, I think that's great.
Sorry?
Something bigger and greater that we're looking for outside of ourselves. Yes.
And he had a daily mantra, and which is so beautiful. And he spoke to himself in the shower, wherever, to himself every single day. And it really was about his own inner strength. And that was something that I've really had to tap into, because I thought my strength was gone when Matt passed away. I really did. And I still have moments where I forget. And it's like, no, I actually have gone through this. I have learned about this. I have applied this. I've grown this. I've made this in my life. I am actually strong. And
so right.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay. So it's like, all right, just the power of this repetitive mantra, saying, affirmation, whatever you want. It's just imperative to surround yourself with like healthy environments, people, places, plants, flowers, nature. Just Matt was a strong believer in really about quality over quantity. Like, he really put his energy into his family, into like dear friends, and he like really opened my eyes and heart into what really quality connections are. And he, you know, I was someone that wanted to be friends with everybody and everyone to like me. And he just, he helped me really start to question my values and what I wanted to have, that reciprocity in friendships and connections. Yeah, like we had regimens. He was a very routine man with his pills and his diet and his meditation and his exercise. And so it's funny, like I've had employers and colleagues say how disciplined I am. I'm like, I was taught. I had a great mentor.
You mentioned something there that I think is really, really powerful. And that is that it was your husband, a male, showing you these things.
Mhm.
And in this day and age, we know that, the talk about mental health is always on the table. The talk about how internal you are going with your feelings and your thoughts and getting connected to yourself and stuff. In the space, it's primarily women.
I know.
So he was so progressive, and I can feel this energy that he is carrying through the way that you ladies are talking about him. And so I hope that our listeners are able to tap into this. And gentlemen out there, give yourselves permission. Matt is giving you permission to do your affirmations in the shower. He's giving you permission to meditate. These things, they're not just hokey. They work because you can feel it on this call right
100%,
now.
100%, Megan.
And I just love the fact that you share all of that energy about him, because I really, really want all of our listeners to tap into the fact that these things will help.
Oh, without a doubt, like, I would not be as healthy as I am today. Like, I didn't have like a tight family network. I'm only just starting to rekindle the relationship with my mom. I didn't have an abundance of finances that I could just say, I'm going to do whatever, whenever.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, like, Matt was, we bought our house, made some smart decisions and so I felt comfortable and secure to have this space and time to myself. So there definitely was some strategizing and planning on his end, but yeah, like, I live a good life. Like, I really do live a good life, and it's not like it's full of abundance internally. I have beautiful connections and friendships in my life. So during a global pandemic, I have people I can go to because I've been fostering these relationships for years. I know what to go to. Like, it's been incredible. It's been an incredible reminder of like my inner strength to know, like, I started building up these tools. And so, yeah, because he emulated them and I watched and observed and so I've adopted them and I applied them to my life and I share with other friends or random strangers. You never know where you have like kindred connections. So it's one of those things where it's a continual pay it forward. And it's like, I'm happy to share with anyone and everyone because I'm
amazing.
I'm super excited to announce to our listeners, Serena, that you have recently joined our team at risetoday.com as a coach to help other caregivers navigate their journey and to best support them. And you help share tools to navigate grief and to discuss the importance of self-care. You are a phenomenal addition to our team at risetoday.com. And we are so happy to have you on board.
Thank you.
So, Serena, can you tell our listeners where they can find you online, where they can hear from you, and what kind of capacity you're working in these days? You mentioned the community earlier.
Sure. I've been a little bit of a turtle when it comes to social media, but I'm getting out there. I
can help you with that.
I'm on my website is serenaklaver.com. As Erica mentioned, my bio is now up on the website. But yeah, my professional background is I'm a professional community planner, city planner. It's all semantics, but yeah, I worked for a number of years in development planning and realized that's not the direction I wanted to go to, but it was what I needed in my life at that time. And now it's an intersection of, personal and development and the intersection of planning. Because ultimately, like Erica and you, Megan, and myself have already mentioned, the fundamental of community that we need in our life. Like, we need community to support one another, to thrive. And so for me, and being a community planner, I'm wanting to build it at a really authentic level. And it's all fundamentally ultimately based on relationships. And so helping people foster their own health, they ultimately can then connect and build healthier relationships around them. And ultimately, me doing my own work for myself is what fostered and allowed me to keep that strength in my relationship with Matt. And yeah, I want to support other people that are in caregiving roles to do that for themselves, because I know how important relationships. We need people, and relationships are all around us. And so the relationship with ourselves is imperative, and ultimately, you can share that with others. So
build our tribe.
Amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Amazing. So on a lighter note, is there any fun things you want to share with us, such as maybe one of your guilty pleasures these days, or an artist that you never get tired of listening to?
Great question.
You listen to me sing a lot.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
Guilty pleasure. I don't know, not really. I, music-wise, love Trevor Hall. And that is someone I listened on repeat time and time again while Matt was in the hospital, and ever since. East Forest, music, meditation, and movement. Spend a lot of time in nature. People can be like, oh, that's a guilty pleasure. Bath. I have a bath every night.
Okay, well, that's pretty good.
Love that. All about self-care, right?
Yes, you are.
That's not a guilty pleasure. I love it.
Say, don't tell anybody that I use so much water, but I just told everybody.
That's okay. I don't think we've hit our water crisis yet. It's not hot enough out there.
Yeah.
Serena, I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for sharing your open and raw telling of your journey, all about Matt and the lessons he has taught us, and for your friendship. I am so eternally thankful. So thank you for being with us today.
I think the one thing that I really noted during this time was that when you are trying something new for the very first time, you went through this whole process of being spiritual, getting grounded, your affirmations, all of those things. I just want our listeners to know that if you have never tried this before, it's okay to feel a little uneasy staring in the mirror, saying, I am worthy. I am powerful. I am brave. When you try things that are new for the first time, it can be uncomfortable and it can feel clunky, and that is okay. What I encourage you to do today is just keep going. Keep trying new things until you find something that really resonates with you, that speaks to your heart, and kind of gives you, the way I explain it to the people I coach, a little bit of a swell in your stomach. And it makes you say, that felt good. And it could be a walk outside in the rain. It could be an I am affirmation in front of the mirror, or while you're driving in your car. It could be cracking a brand new journal for the very first time, thinking that you're staring at a blank page and you have no clue what you're going to say, but then the pen just starts to go. So try something, you guys. Get uncomfortable. I encourage you to go from within and really get yourself in alignment with where you want to be in life.
Megan is so right. So science even tells us that those who experiment the most are those who win the most. So as Megan just said, try out different things, see what you resonate most with. It might not be standing in the mirror. It might be saying your affirmations in your car. But this is exactly why we give our coaching clients so many tools to choose from, to decide what they each resonate with. And it's so important for you to experiment. Again, those who experiment the most are those who win the most. Just that we'd leave it on that.
I love it.
It's gonna be a good day. Thanks so much for joining us today. Take this inspiration forward. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. And please do help us in our mission to spread hope, inspiration, and positivity by encouraging those in your circle to join us and to tune in for our next show of inspiration coming soon. Please contact us if you have a powerful story to share with us to inspire the world. Until next time, get out there and rise today.